New York Republican Congressman George Santos today basically saying he doesn't care what some of his fellow Republicans want. He's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Listen.
I came here to serve the people, not politicians and party leaders, and I'm going to do just that. I wish well all of their opinions, but I was elected by 142,000 people. Until those same 142,000 people tell me they don't want me, we'll find out in 2 years.
Keep in mind, those 142,000 people voted for him before that New York Times investigation broke that found he lied on his resume while running for office about where he worked, where he went to school, etc. And while more of his colleagues on Capitol Hill are now, this week, today, calling for his resignation. Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who, remember, is only leading a Republican conference that has a razor-thin majority in the House, is not ready to jump on the step-down train just yet, let's call it.
The voters of his district have elected him. He is seated. He is part of the Republican conference. There are concerns with it, so he will go before ethics. If anything is found to be wrong, he will be held accountable exactly as anybody else in this body would be.
Joining me now is Vitali. And Ali, Kevin McCarthy says Santos is going to go through the ethics committee process. So, okay, what does that even mean? What does that look like?
Yeah, Hallie, we're probably not going to hear too much about that until they come up with a recommendation. And the reason I say that is because these kinds of things are notoriously done behind closed doors. The ethics committee is evenly divided between Republicans and Democrats. And look, they could recommend a fine after they look into things. They could even recommend that he be expelled from Congress. But they don't have the power to do that. That would require a 2/3 majority vote on the floor of the House. It doesn't seem like there's much of an appetite right now for this. The thing that I keep hearing from Republicans that I talk to is Democrats didn't object to Santos being seated, and so he's here now. Even if people are saying that they think he should resign, which several of his Republican colleagues and most of the New York delegation is, it's not changing, clearly, his mindset around this.
Tell me about the way that this plays out, though, because one thing that I've heard from Democrats I spoke with, as you know, one member of leadership today who said, hey, man, this is basically a Republicans' mess. They got to clean it up. Republicans have a really tight margin, as we said, right? Like, there is a political incentive for them, for Santos, to stay in the conference. This question has come up about, well, if he can't be trusted to, like, tell the truth about his resume, like, maybe you can't trust him with key intel, national security secrets, et cetera. It's the balancing act that Republicans are walking here.
When you were talking to Congressman Jim Clyburn earlier, I was struck by this, and then earlier in the day when Hakeem Jeffries said it, the idea that this is Republicans' mess, they should clean it up. Of course Democrats would like them to do that, not just because this is clearly someone within the Republican ranks who lied about his resume and has a whole slew of other ethical and frankly legal concerns that are mounting around his campaign finances, where the money came from, how it was dealt with, what was reported or wasn't. All of these are open questions that other entities much larger and with bigger teeth than Congress are looking into right now. But the political concerns are critical here. I mean, you talk about the fact that the Republican majority is so slim already. That numbers game that we were watching McCarthy play all last week in order to become Speaker, that's the numbers game he's going to be playing over the course of the next 2 years in trying to get anything done. You look at the map and the demographics on the ground in New York, in this Long Island area of the state, this is a place that demographically tilts more blue based on the way that things were in 2020. It was a pro-Biden area of the map. That's going to be something that factors in here as well, because if this were to go and it's just an open seat, a total free-for-all, those dynamics of the demographics, plus the fact that it would be viewed in many ways as a referendum on Santos, and clearly we've had our reporters on the ground there, voters on the ground are not too fond of him. Democrats have a lot of reason to feel confident about how they would do there. I mean, you got to imagine, Hallie, the millions of dollars that would get poured into this part of New York. All of us would be camped out there covering it. It's not something that Republican leaders want to leave to chance, and that's probably another reason why they're not banging down the door saying, yeah, he should resign. We're with the state party.
Vitali, live for us there on Capitol Hill. It's the story that has a new twist, it seems, every day. I'm sure we'll talk again very soon. Ali, thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.